all officially Irish.
Including you.
I'm sorry, you can't. Sorry, I can't hear them when I record it.
Okay. So, good morning. We're coming to you this morning because the church is, as probably every place is, freezing cold. We've had to adapt, but Unitarian Universalists are nothing if not resilient and resourceful. So we are here at our special top secret remote winter location. I could give you the address, but then the CIA would descend on us like a polar ice cap melting, and we just can't afford any more of those happening. At some moment shortly, when I get the signal, it would be great if there were any announcements. This would be an ideal time for people to share those announcements. Are we good to go there, Dan? Okay. So,
let's see. I don't see anybody ask them to raise their hand and unmute themselves if they have an announcement. Rob, ask them to unmute themselves or raise their hand if they have an announcement.
So we're at that point where it would be really helpful if we could have a kind of cooperation around the things we need to do to make all this work by Zoom. And the first step is, if you would like to speak and make an announcement, could you please make yourself no longer muted, either with the space bar, or there may be another way to click that would make you unmuted. And then so Dan can know to call on you, just raise your hand and we'll go from there.
Next week.
Announcements going once.
Raise your hand.
I think I see a hand.
Go ahead, Annette.
Go ahead, Annette.
Good morning, everyone. I want to remind people that Reverend Steve Wilson is in our pulpit next Sunday at our usual casual time of 11:30 a.m. So even if you do Greenfield or Northfield, you can tune in on our Zoom and see Steve. He's going to be back from California. The second announcement I have is that the Interfaith Council, their committee on homelessness, and they could use donations. Just go on the webpage for the Interfaith Council of Franklin County. If you can make a small donation to help folks that are cold right now, we'd appreciate it.
Hey, Dan.
Kate Mason.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is Kate. I'm speaking from the All Souls perspective, and we're looking forward to joining Bernardston with Reverend Steve Wilson next Sunday, and and then the following Sunday we are going to have Carl Cargo from our Springfield church, and he's going to be talking about reparations. And that's all I have to report.
Could you ask her what time the service will be next week?
The service.
Yes, Kate, please tell us what time the service will be next week.
Okay. Obviously the Reverend Steve Wilson is at 11:30, and the Carl McCargo will be at 10:30.
Okay. Somebody from, ask if anybody from Northfield has any announcements.
We're wondering, and we're first of all very delighted to have Bernardston and Northfield congregations, members of them, joining us this morning. Would either church, starting maybe with Northfield, do you have an announcement that you'd like to share? Please unmute yourself and raise your hand. All right. So if there is some burning announcement that we missed or that happens later, please put that in the chat and we'll do our best to make sure we get the word out. And now it's that moment where you get a moment in the spirit of peaceful contemplation, a moment to just stop and be centered and sink into a kind of silent, quiet reflection as we listen to the prelude, which in this case is a version of Ave Maria recorded by our special guest this morning, John Porcino, and his sweetheart, Julia Morgan. That'd be great. Thank you, Dan. So just take a moment to breathe into the peace and the spirit that music reflects. Special thanks to John and Julia, J&J, the next best thing to Johnson & Johnson. And Julia, so nice that you're here on the Zoom screen as well. Welcome. So it's a custom in our sanctuary to light all the wrongs by lighting a chalice. And in this case, Mr. Everything, Dan, sound man and audio engineer and chalice lighter, will light the sacred flame, and I'll share a short chalice lighting reading that's taken from a poem by Melanie Davis, with perhaps a small amount of poetic license. Her poem is titled "A Spark of Hope." If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace and wisdom, and allow it to blaze brightly in our hearts, a torch of meaning and shared purpose, a beacon of warmth, kindness, and community. And those last lines are like the perfect introduction to our special guest, John Porcino, who was one of the co-founders of the Pioneer Valley co-housing community and is such a beacon of warmth and kindness. It's like being best friends with Santa Claus. And best of all, it's not just joy at Christmas time. It's a spirit that extends for all seasons, and a friendship that has seen me through some of the depths and the darkness of depression, as hard a psychic winter as I've ever known. And during those low moments, John would often quote to me some lines from the Rumi poem that I'd like to invite him to come up and share with all of you as part of our invocation. It's a poem that's called Take Down the Dulcimer, a musical instrument that you strum. We ready? The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down the dulcimer. Let the beauty we love be what we do. So hello, and I'm so grateful and glad to be here with each one of you today. Thanks for giving part of your morning to being with us. Whoops. Winter. Oh, winter, winter, winter. Long, dark, cold nights, whipping, biting winds, icy windshields, frozen pipes, frozen hands, numb toes, Omicron coming on strong, grumpy parents, whining children, slipping and falling with bags full of groceries, leaky roofs, leaky boots, wet hats, wet mittens, got to bundle up the baby. The title of this service is A Heck of a Way to Stay Warm. How to bring joy and light into the cold, cold COVID winter. I just can't understand why we would take a moment to try and remember how to do that, can you? Icy roads, frozen pipes, yeah, grumpy parents, all that stuff. You know, let me say this. Winnie the Pooh, you know Winnie the Pooh, right? Winnie the Pooh was talking to his friend Piglet. And Pooh said to Piglet, "What day is it, Piglet?" And Piglet said, "Why, Pooh, it's today." And Pooh said, "Today? Oh, Piglet, that's my favorite one." Got some notes right here to help me out with a service, so let me find myself. So before I go on, let me tell a quick story. It was created some 800 years ago in Turkey. I love that. I love how a story that was created so far back in Turkey can mean something today, right here, right now, in this one today we have. Let's be here together as much as we can. Let's grow and learn and dive into this question, how to stay warm in spirit in the cold, cold COVID winter. So here's the story. Nasruddin, for 45 years, climbed up into the minbar, the pulpit of his mosque, and gave inspiring sermons to the masses. Are you with me? You can wave your hands if you're with me. That way I know I can peek at the monitor here. Yeah, and on one particular Friday, as he climbed up into the minbar, though he had tried, there was nothing in his mind, nothing at all. And he stood in the minbar looking down at the people who wanted something. This was his sermon. And what came out of his mouth is, "Do you people know what I'm about to say?" And the people said no. And Nasruddin looked at them and he said, "You know nothing of this important subject? Then what is the use of my sharing it with you?" And proudly he climbed out of the minbar and walked out of the mosque, excuse me. Well, it was just the same the next week when he climbed up into the minbar. There was nothing. He had tried so hard for 45 years. There was nothing new to say. And as he stood there, he said, "Do you people know what I'm about to say?" And remembering the last week, the people yelled out, "Yes, we know, Nasruddin, we know." Nasruddin said, "You know what I'm about to say? Well, then what is the use of my sharing it with you? Good communication needs some element of surprise." Well, it was just the same the third week. He climbed into the minbar, the pulpit, and there was nothing in his brain. So what could he do but say, "Do you people know what I'm about to say?" Well, this time the people had prepared and talked about it, and half of them yelled out yes, and the other half yelled out no. And Nasruddin smiled and he said, "Why, some of you know, and some of you do not. Very good indeed. I am not the only wise one here. Why don't those who know tell those who do not?" And again, he strolled out of the mosque with pride. Well, I can tell you this. Here's what I know more than anything today. I am certainly not the only wise one here. And I can't answer for you the question of how to keep your spirit warm in the winter. So we're here today to play with that and see what we can find, and see if we can find one or two or three things that would help this winter flow by, would help us be present, help us have joy, help us have light in this challenging season. So I got a question for you. Are you ready? How many of you people know what I'm about to say? Seriously, I've just dug in and leaned into this topic. I've had a week to prepare, a good week since the last presentation I had to prepare for. And I want to try something I've never tried before. It's just an idea I had, something I'm calling a blizzard. And before I explain it, I wonder if you would each do something for me. We'll take about 30 seconds for this. While I'm cranking up my guitar here, would you go find a piece of paper and something to write with and bring it back? Or, yeah, you could type on your computer, but I think you're on your computer. That's up to you. But just something. We're going to do a little brainstorm in this process, and I hope this will help each of us find that which is within us to make this winter good. So here we go. You got 30 seconds, go ahead. I'll just rip
I'll just riff on the guitar a little bit until we begin. And when this guitar stops for just a moment, if you could be back, great. No rush. You can do this all in your brain too if you prefer, but it helps me to have a little piece of paper in front of me. I love what happens between good friends. One cold, cold winter day, just like today. My friend Tim Van Egman and Michael Evans, we all took a nice walk in the cold, came back rosy cheeks, and this song came out of us. It asked the question, how do you stay warm in a cold, cold winter? Here's the chorus. It's your part. You can sing it at home. Don't worry if you think your voice is bad. This is perfect tune for out-of-tune voices. It's a heck of a way to stay warm, a heck of a way to stay warm. Won't do us no harm, so don't get alarmed. It keeps us from the storm. That's it. Nothing more to it. Ma? Yes, Pa? Ma? Sure am proud of our family. Yes, Pa. We sure do know how to stay warm on these cold, cold winter days. Brother Bill, you come on out and tell these good folks listening in how we stay warm. We eat our socks in wintertime because we like to do it. It keeps us warm both day and night because it takes such work to chew it. How about you, Auntie O'Grady? Come on out and tell these folks how you stay warm. I flap my arms both up and down, trying hard to fly. I never get south of the winter, but every year I try. Okay, come on over here. Uncle Jensen, you tell these people what you do. I lay across a bed of coals, just like the swamis do. Oh, 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 it gets real hot and it hurts a lot, but I've never caught the flu. Okay, chorus, everyone, a heck of a way to stay warm. Sing along with me if you would. It's a heck of a way to stay warm, a heck of a way to stay warm. Won't do us no harm, so don't get alarmed. It keeps us from the storm. Grandpa, come on out and tell these people how you stay warm in the cold, cold winter. I chased the neighbor's cat all day, all around the house. It keeps me nice and toasty, and we've never had a mouse. Uncle Antony, your turn. I heap the fire high and higher for jalapeno stew. Jump in the pot and thrash a lot and eat some of it too. It's a heck of a way to stay warm, a heck of a way to stay warm. Won't do us no harm, so don't get alarmed. It keeps us from the storm. And last but not least, the pride of the entire family, little Lindy Lou. Come on out and tell these people just what you do. Come on, chest up, little Lindy Lou. I pile on layer after layer of wool and down and all. Cotton and polypropylene. Uh-oh. Then Mother Nature calls. It's a heck of a way to stay warm, a heck of a way to stay warm. Won't do us no harm, so don't get alarmed. It keeps us from the storm. That's a heck of a way to stay warm. And the question we're asking today is really how we stay warm emotionally in our spirits. physically too, but mostly emotionally. And I'd ask that you take a moment. Let me get something out. You got your piece of paper? Tried to make this big so you could see. A little bit down? How's that? Over a little bit. Move the music stand down. Over there. That's all right. This is fine. Yeah. So write these words because they're things we already do. We want to share them with each other so others get ideas. Then somewhere, leaving a little space, write the words, things I want to rekindle. By the way, something I already do to keep my spirit strong is get outside every day. Mostly I love to cross-country ski. It makes me so happy in the winter. Things we do that we might want to rekindle in our lives that we left behind maybe years ago. For instance, when you saw Julia play the piano, the last time she really tried hard to play the piano was when she was a child, and she took it up in the COVID winter. And now, and that inspired me to take out my cello. It's a thing I want to rekindle. It's been sitting in the case, and now we are doing that together. And then somewhere the words anew or from scratch. Things we've wanted to take on for a long time in our life that we just haven't made the time. Maybe this is the COVID winter. Maybe this is the way to warm our spirit, right? And the last thing is, something anew I've been wanting to do for a long time, Julia can tell you, is I'm determined to make my first homemade almond croissant. Okay, and then the last category is people we want to connect with and be connected with. And what's happening for me, one of my ideas, right? These are all ideas. How do we do these things? What might we want to do? One of my ideas, and I've begun this process, just to reach out to people I don't get to see because of COVID or people who live far away and share a meal with them on Zoom. It's been a little miracle. I sat the other day, Julia and I, with my sister and her husband in Australia. They had breakfast, we had dinner, and we had a beautiful time. Are you with me? So what I'm going to invite is anytime during this service when you get an idea in your head, we're going to do something called a blizzard at the end. I'll explain that. When you get an idea in your head in one of these categories, just write it down in a few words. We're going to use them at the very end of my part of the service anyway. All right, that's that. You won't see this page again, so Ravi P, don't step on my balalaika. You can take, let's leave that here. Okay, so from here, again, any idea that pops into your head, there's no right or there's no wrong. This is just a brainstorm, okay? And the whole time we have, if something comes in your head, let it pop in. I'll give a minute at the end and play a little music for you to actually think. So if you rather would just be present with the material. So are you ready? So for me, light in the darkness is laughter. If I can find laughter, there's light in the darkness. By the way, if you lived in a time, imagine this. You lived in a time before there were cell phones. Was there such a time? Before there were DVDs to plug in and watch a movie. Before there was, you remember these, VCRs? If you lived in a time before there was color television, maybe some of you did. I did. My first television was black and white. Oh, okay. That's going in the chat so people can see. Don't put them in the chat during the show. We'll get back to that. We'll be putting them in the chat. Anyway, where was I? I lost my place. Oh yeah. You know, there was a time before television. There was a time before television at all, even before black and white. And occasionally now, I run into somebody who grew up in a time before there was radio. And you ask yourself, well, how did they have fun? I think in some ways, from the stories I've heard, they had more fun than we're ever having now. You know, on a cold, cold winter's day like this, they gather around the potbelly stove in the general store or at their neighbor's house, and they would like to swap stories, tall tales, lies, hence where this story came from. Up north, where I come from, we got 2 seasons. Now, you people who live down in the warm, warm south right here where we live in the Pioneer Valley, you got 4 seasons. You got spring, and you got summer, and you got autumn, and you got winter. But we got just 2 seasons where I come from, July and winter. Now, one winter, it was so cold. I mean, it was so cold. It was so cold. I'll tell you how cold it was. It was so cold that to get out to our barn to milk our cows, we had to take our axes out and chop through the frozen air. And when we set to milking them cows, instead of milk, our cows was given, you thinking ice cream, right? But they're warm-blooded animals. No, our cows was given milkshakes. I'm telling you, it was cold. Why, it was so cold. It was so cold, my shadow froze right to the side of the house. We couldn't get it back to the springtime thaw. Why, it was cold. Why, it was so cold. How cold was it? That's your cue. Yep, you can add those words right in there. How cold was it? I'll tell you. It was so cold it froze the bottom right off our thermometer. 130 degrees below zero. Now, how many of you people listening has ever been outside in 130 degrees below zero? Now, hang on, you people at home, I can tell. When I ask a question, now I'm a storyteller, like, how many of you ever been out in 130 degrees below zero? What I'm looking for is a little bit of response for you. I can see the monitor right here, and I can see right through that camera. All I want you to do is take your hand and raise it straight up into the air. That way, I know you're with me when I ask my questions and I tell my story. So are you ready? Put your hand right there. How many of you people, this is a question, get ready. How many of you people ever been outside in 130 degrees below zero? Well, geez, crow. Why in heaven's name didn't you stay inside and sit by the fire? At least you know what I'm talking about. When I say it was cold, why, it was so cold. How cold was it? We had to iron on the chopstick. It was so cold. We had to put jumper cables on the hound dog's ears. Why, it was so cold. How cold was it? You want to know how cold it was? I'll tell you. It was so cold, our chickens was laying hard iced eggs. What? What? Are you people doubting my story? I knew you might. So I brought one of my chickens with me so you could have a demonstration. I got it right here. It was in the freezer this morning, cooling down for the show. I had the sermon, the whatever this thing is. I got it. It's right here. There you go. That's not a chicken. That's a cow. It's a chicken. Look with your very own eyes. one of the very chicken that was laying them hard iced eggs. Are you doubting me still? I got it. It's right here. These people don't believe me, Rob. You asked me here, and they don't believe me. I got it. It's right here. Are you ready? Oh, no. I've never seen this before. Hard. Iced. Egg. True. Why, that was quite a winter, I'm telling you. Why, it was so cold.
How cold was it?
My two sisters was outside having an argument. But instead of words, ice cubes come tumbling out of their mouth, one for every word they spoke. And being their loving brother, I picked up them ice cubes in 2 burlap sacks, and I brought them inside. My mother, my father, and my 2 sisters and I, we all sat round the fireplace, and we melted them ice cubes one at a time. And when the ice cubes melted, the words came out, and we heard ourselves a darn good argument. Well, you still not believing me. I bought one of them ice cubes here with me. I'm sorry to say, before you got here, it melted. But it was a darn good word. Would you like to hear it? Sounded something like this here. You! Now, you remember how I feel about questions, right? Put your hand right next to your head. I'm looking at the monitor there. Yep, put your hand right there. I'm about to ask a question. Now, how many of you people are believing my stories? I can see you've been out in the cold too long. Now, there is one story, one tall tale, one whopper I decided not to tell today because it was such a big lie, such a big whopper. When I first heard it, it swelled up my ears till they hung down below my knees. Weren't nothing to do but flap them up top my head and tie them together. Least I had myself a nice warm hat for the cold, cold winter. But I ain't telling that today, because if I did, your ears would swell up too. And you'd have to tie your ears up and you wouldn't be able to hear no more of the stories. Well, that's about all this feller has to say. We do hope it's a warm inside, warm COVID winter. So, laughter. Where do you find your laughter? Where do you find your light or joy? Put something down on that paper if it means something. Maybe something you already do, or maybe something you want to kindle in your spirit. Go ahead and put something down. And I thought, you just have a little time on a day like this, and I thought, what could I share that would be valuable? And I think what I decided, you make choices. What I decided is I wanted to teach you all a game that has brought hours of joy and connection in my life. And it doesn't have to be with somebody who's sitting right in the room with you. We have this miracle of Zoom right now, getting on the computer and being able to at least see our friends. And it's not as good, of course, as being close, especially in these long, cold winters when we have to keep more of a distance with COVID. But a game like this can lighten the joy. It's called Which is Stranger, Truth or Fiction? The way it works, simple. Somebody tells a story. It's a story from their life. It's a story that could be true, or it could be fiction. It's a story that could take 10 seconds or 10 minutes. One little girl who was at a program told her story like this. She said, "Me and my family took a trip to Connecticut. She was 5 years old and the shyest kid in the group. Then my sister, my big sister and me, we got to walk around a candy store. That was her story. That's all you need for a game like this. The story could be crafted and honed by the storyteller before they tell it, or it could be told off the cuff. And when the storyteller is done, everyone puts their thumb up like this. You can try it. Opens their hand like this, puts their thumb in the house like this, and closes the door. Then we count 1, 2, 3. You throw up your thumb if you think the story is true. You throw down your thumb if you think the story is fiction, that the storyteller made it up. And fair warning before I go on, almost all stories start with a little bit of truth, at least start with a little bit of truth. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories to give you a model of both today. You'll have to decide which one is true and which one is fiction. Are you with me? Okay, here goes. If you ever made a homemade apple pie, you know it's a piece of work. Yeah, it takes hours, really all afternoon long, and you have to start with that certain determination that this is going to be the best, the finest, the most delicious pie in the history of humanity. I mean, it's going to have the flakiest, butteriest crust. It's going to be filled with fresh, tart, peeled apples, sweetened just right. Not too much, not too little, spiced with cinnamon and nutmeg and that magic pinch of allspice, dotted the top with butter, the top crust rolled out off the rolling pin real careful-like. And just before you put it in the preheated oven, brush the top, right? You've done this with a mixture of egg and a little whole milk. Then you put it in the oven, and it's not long. If you've ever done this before, the smells of deliciousness are all around the house. And soon after that, every mouth in the house is salivating. And you take the pie out at just the right moment, when the top is a golden brown and the filling is bubbling up through the slits you delicately placed on the top. Are you with me? Well, that day, we, Julie and I, made 2 pies. One for the friend who had done a big favor, not even a close friend, and refused to be paid. And one carefully cut into 5 large slices, 3 of them delivered, one to the old friend who lives up the road, who lives alone now. 2 to the next door neighbor, a single mother and a teenage daughter. And then we got home and our 2 slices were waiting for us, still warm. And my sweetheart, she went and she lit a fire in the wood stove while I plated the pie slices. I plated the first and brought it out and set it on the little coffee table between the couch and the wood stove. And then, as I was walking back to plate the second slice, my slice, I had the thought, give me a warm slice of apple pie. You know what I mean? Fresh from the oven, and I am a truly happy man. But give me a warm slice of apple pie, fresh from the oven, sitting on a couch next to my beloved in front of a crackling fire. And I'm a man who is about to know a tiny moment of heaven on earth. And everything was lined up perfectly for that beautiful moment. The slice was on the plate, and I was walking towards the couch when I had the thought, I'd enjoy this whole experience more if I took a little pee first. Well, there was a little half bathroom right there, so I turned and walked into the half bathroom, and pretty soon I'm standing above the toilet with the plate with the pie slice on top and thinking to myself, I ought to set this down on the bathroom counter before I, do my business. And so, well, you probably remember Newton's first law of motion, don't you? Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects that are still tend to stay still. Well, I started moving the plate. The plate was in motion and the plate stayed in motion. But the pie slice had been at rest and it stayed at rest. And pretty soon there was no plate under the slice. And I watched as the surprise slice of pie hovered for the tiniest little moment and then took a nosedive right into the toilet. Well, the mind is an amazing thing. Because in that next single second, I thought three things. The first was, no! The second was, quick. The 5-second rule. You remember the 5-second rule? Go on, get it. And the third was that infinite guru inside me that said, let it go, John. The 5-second rule does not apply here. Don't be attached, John. And besides, the pie is exactly where it would be tomorrow, probably. So let it go. And I did let it go. I cleaned up the mess. I washed my hands twice. And pretty soon, I was out on the couch, sitting next to my love, sharing the one slice of pie we had left. And even though it was small, it was delicious. And pretty soon I heard myself saying to her, you know, sweetheart, you know how much I love a warm slice of pie from the oven. No ice cream for me. I don't know why people like ice cream. I mean, pie a la mode, for me, takes the taste and flavor down a notch. But you want to know something that takes it down a notch below that? And with a twinkle in my eye and laughter in my lips, I said, pie a la commode. And the laughter that followed, if there ever was such a thing as heaven and earth, that was truly a slice of heaven. That's my first story. Maybe true, maybe fiction. You'll have to decide. Yeah, I worked on that story and I honed it. This one I'll tell off the cuff. I was visiting my son Julian in Los Angeles, California about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he had to work that day. And I said, no worries, Julian, I'll just go take a run up in the mountains. If you've been to Los Angeles, you know it's a remarkable city. On one side is the ocean, and on the other side, the east side, are these beautiful, dry but lovely mountains, beautiful colors. And he left, I put on my running shoes, and I started running up to Griffith Park. You've probably all seen it in a movie sometime, this park. And I got to the park, and I'm about to run up the hill when there's a big sign at the entrance of the park, and it reads like this: there are mountain lions in this park. If you see a mountain lion, don't turn your back on it. Make your body look big. Stare at the mountain lion. Walk backwards, keeping your eyes on the mountain lion for a long time, careful not to fall. And I laughed and I thought, I'm not going to see a mountain lion, come on. And so I'm running, and it's a beautiful day. I think it was May or June, and it wasn't too hot yet, but warm enough that my breath is going in and out. I'm having a great time. I'm jogging up. I feel strong. I jog up the mountain, and pretty soon I'm on the ridge, and I'm jogging along the ridge, and I've gone a long way, and I know I should turn around because I haven't run this far in a long time. So after a long time, I made myself turn around, and I started running back along the ridge. And as I did, I kept having this feeling like there's something behind me. And I would turn and I would look, and there'd be nothing. And then it just got worse. That feeling that something was behind me was worse. I never understood that saying, you know, the hair stands up on the back of your neck, but that's exactly what was happening to me. The hair was standing up on the back of my neck. I never felt it before. And I thought, there's something back there. And I spun around as quick as I could, and about 150 feet away on a rock, there was a mountain lion. And it was a good thing I read that sign, because I did everything it said. Though my heart was pounding with fear, I made my body look big. I stared at the mountain lion fiercely. My heart was going like that, and I kept my eyes on the mountain lion, right on its eyes. I backed up slowly, carefully, slowly, carefully. It took about 5 minutes to get 100 feet. I got around a bend where I couldn't see the mountain lion anymore, and I backed up continually looking that way for another 5 or 10 minutes. And when I was convinced, you know how the story ended. I turned and I ran home quick as could be. That's my story. One of those stories is true. One of them is fiction. So are you ready? Just a sec. You tell me when. We can see the monitor now. So thumb in the air, hand open, thumb in the house. Let's go with the apple pie story first. If you think that's true, you know where you go. If you think it's fiction, go like this. Ready? 1. I can see you all now. Thank you, Dan, who's doing a spectacular job running the technical part of this. 1, 2, 3, go. We mixed some up and some down. Okay, the mountain lion story. 1, 2, 3, go. The true story? The true story was the apple pie story. Julia's one of the amongst you to attest. There you go, a game you can play with your family. I hope you really will try it. It's so much fun. You don't have to be skillful. You just have to have that little twinkle in your eye. For me, that's a heck of a way to stay warm. Sharing stories with people, reading books, anything with words. And you don't need to be sitting next to somebody to do that. Wasn't there supposed to be a sermon in this? This is a service. There should be a sermon. And I thought about it. You know, actually, each of these things are a sermon. By the way, if you could think of a way that you could share words or any kind of story and make magic with your family, put that down on your little list. So I want to go back to the beginning here. Rob and I read a Rumi poem. Do you remember it? Wave to me if you remember it. I can see the monitor. I'll know you're there. If I have any wisdom, maybe it's this. No, I think I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it as I go. I think all the information, maybe not all, but a lot of the information we need to know about how to live well in a cold, cold COVID winter is right in this poem. I'll read it to you and I'll interpret it the way I interpret it. There are a million ways of interpreting a poem like this. And this is really just about, we're coming to the end of the service. There's a covenant that comes after this and a little song to close us out. So the first line of the poem. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. I don't know, but I think perhaps Rumi was trying to say, listen to that still, quiet voice within you. It has something to say. Listen, sit for a moment and hear it. Next words from the poem. Don't go back to sleep. Perhaps what Rumi meant was to step gratefully, as Mary Oliver said, into this one wild, precious day that we have. No different in the middle of the summer, or in a beautiful autumn day when the flowers are blooming. Step gratefully into this one wild, precious day. Rumi goes on, you must ask for what you want. Don't open the door to the study. What does that mean in modern day times? I think he's talking about something like, don't open up your laptop. Okay, I know. You're on your laptop now, for heaven's sake. And we all are going to use that tool. And it's a wonderful tool. Just not all the time, right? Find some other things that bring us light and joy. This is your mini sermon. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading, are Rumi's next line. They didn't have computers before then. But perhaps what he means by begin reading in this day and age is like social media, web surfing, email, constant news, all-day sporting events on the tube. All good sometimes, really. But mix it up a little. Then I love this line. He says, take down the dulcimer. I think what he means by take down the dulcimer is do something that inspires you. You got an idea? What's something that inspires you? Write it down on that sheet of paper that you could do in this cold COVID winter. I think he probably also means reach out to someone you want to be closer to. Do something that inspires you, reach out to someone. And last, but by far not least, let the beauty we love be what we do. Exactly that. Let the beauty you love be what you do. It is there, I think, that you will find joy and light in the long, cold COVID winter. It's been a pleasure. There's just a little bit more. Rob?
Thank you, John. Joy to share a program like this with such a beloved friend and such a wise spiritual guru. I think when that poem, John first shared it with me, my reading of Don't Take Out a Book and Take Down the Dulcimer was that, there's stuff that everybody's already written about, and there's music yet to be discovered. And there's something pretty magical about starting a day with a consciousness of, rather than going to a well that I've always visited, trying to find something fresh. I think that I always hear something fresh in our church covenant, and I sure hope that perhaps after John's service, maybe some of the lines will take on a new meaning for all of you as well. I'll read it aloud, and it's nice to hear John's music in the background, so please don't stop, John. Especially because we'll go right from this. Well, no, we are going to do the offering. Going to do the offering.
Oh yeah, offering and then the blizzard.
So just a little more from John coming up, but two important things before we close out. So in this house, we covenant with one another to create a community built on a foundation of love, to work together to promote equality, justice, and peace, accepting responsibility for our individual acts, to stand on the side of love embracing the liberation of oppressed minorities, and working to end discrimination and unjust privilege. To communicate with kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment. And Dan, I think you epitomized that. To listen respectfully and value our diversity as a source of our collective strength. To learn together, to grow together, generously sharing our time, our talents, and our treasures. And finally, to celebrate the joys of discovery, from the wonders of youth to the wisdom of age, to openly share our laughter and our tears, showing reverence for the divine in all that is. Dan, I'm going to need a little bit of your help in terms of where people can contribute, but this is the time in our service when we invite people to make an offering. I mentioned in our own covenant about sharing time, that is the greatest gift, talents, which we're so lucky to have today in our midst, but we do need treasure. We need money to keep the heat on and things that are just practical but need to be done in our buildings. So if you could please be as generous as you're able, and I'm hoping, Dan, maybe you can put in, he's going to put in the chat where you can direct those contributions. And I'm hoping there's a way that you contribute all the money to All Souls. Now, if you're from Northfield or Berniston, we totally understand and want you to support your own congregations. Or you could just give all the money to John Porcino. And speaking of whom, I'll let you take it from here, Johnny P.
Okay, so it's time for the blizzard before the closing song. What is the blizzard? Just a little idea I had. And I think what I'd like to do is take a silent minute, just 1 minute, I'm going to time it, to give you a chance to write down things you already do, things that you want to rekindle, things that you want to start from scratch, or people you want to connect with, or ways that you want to connect with those people. I'll give you a minute starting now. It's going to be silent. I'll play a little bit of background music. When the music stops, if you'll give me your attention back, go ahead. Write those down, or if you don't have a piece of paper, just think in your head some. Okay, so here's the idea. When there's a blizzard, the snow comes pouring in, pouring in, pouring in. That beautiful, each single little bit of wisdom, let's call it, comes pouring in. This is a time to add your wisdom to the collective wisdom. And what will happen is we'll give 2 minutes, 2 timed minutes, for everyone to type as fast as they can into the chat as many ideas as you have about how we can stay warm in this long, cold, cold winter. Got the idea? I'm going to collect those. We're going to save it. I'm going to collect them. I'm going to take them home. And I think, Dan, right, we have a way of sending that collective bit of wisdom out to people. If you take a minute to read that list, perhaps you'll find something that you want to add to your list. That's the idea. A blizzard of words. Are you ready? So I'll play that little background music. For 2 minutes. When it stops, you can stop, and we'll sing that little closing song. ahead and chat. Go ahead and type right into the chat your bit of wisdom, your bit of knowledge, or even something for yourself that you want to see on that list. Don't be rushed. Don't read them all out.
So just a small sample. Allow space for gratitude, flannel sheets, meditation, make love, bake bread, regular walks in nature, exercise, dance party in the kitchen, create a great garden plan and order the seeds from Fedco, read in silence, sing a song, make rugs, game night, daily writing practice, take out my old auto harp. Yeah, take down the auto harp, try a new recipe, fuzzy socks, especially tasteful ones that John can eat. Walk under the moon. Learn to play the guitar, any new thing. Woodworkings. Play a Jew's harp, even play a Gentile's harp. Make brunch for my wife. Reach out to people far away. Farming. Make puns and silly stories. Sing outdoors with friends. Dance around the room. Campfires. Make berry muffins and listen to Yo-Yo Ma play his cello. Skipping snow angels. Make a meatloaf. Connect with people who are planting a tree and doing it with fungi. Look forward and find trouble. Look inward and find peace.
Read a few more after I stop.
Learn a new language. Bird watching. Cuddling. Cooking stories to share for family history and good eating by the fire. Watch comedy shows, nap with my dog, spread with joy.
So you got a little taste of what that is. And I'd say it really takes courage to step in the way you know you can. Courage and maybe determination. Sign language for courage, sign language for determination. So I'll end with this little song that I wrote for myself because sometimes I do feel very alone in the world, like a single candle sitting on a table alone in the dark. The benediction. One candle is a small thing, as against the dark it flickers. One candle is a small thing, standing still and alone. But watch, see how its light grows when it kindles another, when its flame it sows. And watch, see how out of the night one candle can weave a tapestry, can weave a tapestry of light.
If it only wasn't COVID, I would give my brother a big hug. But giving you an air hug and a heart thanks for a beautiful, beautiful morning. Go out into the world, take down the Dulcimer, or if you want, now you can go into the study and crack open a book. But best of all, know that we've shared some time where we got to connect and some time where we got to be kindled. It's all part of what's going to help us stay warm and survive and maybe even, dare I say it, thrive. Thanks so much for being here. What's that? Oh, thank you so much. Dan is reminding me, extremely helpfully, that I almost forgot what is ironically just about my favorite part of any Sunday. And that's where, speaking of lighting one candle, either literally in your home or metaphorically, I'd like to invite people to light a candle of concern. If there's something that's a concern that would help them to share with this community of caring souls. And likewise, a candle of joy. If there's something that you feel really, thankful for, you can, by all means, share that with us as well. And I think I'll just let you take it from here, Dan, in terms of managing the joys and concerns.
Yeah, if you'll light the candle for me over there.
Yes, I will.
Let's see here. Annette, do you have one?
Can't hear him.
I changed the live audio here.
Should I say, Dan, can we do breakout rooms?
Annette, do you have a joy or concern?
Oh, my concern, well, my joy is my congregation, and I would love to have a breakout room when you're done with the joys and concerns.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have to pan between two different, we are 50 strong at least this morning. So,
Yay!
yay. And so I have to look at all the little windows. Raise your hand or do something like that, or you can just unmute yourself and start talking. I would just like to have I'd like to light a candle of concern for all the people who don't have reliable shelter, especially when the temperature is -5 degrees as it was last night, and even most of our churches would have a hard time being livable at these temperatures, what it's like for people who are out on the street. So I'd like to light a candle for them. First screen. And I'd like to light a candle of concern for the people of Ukraine who are living in fear at the moment. Okay. Is there another? Gary, yes?
Like to light a candle for the community in Texas with the synagogue that was under threat yesterday of the hostage situation. And gratitude that it's been resolved, although unfortunately, there was a death of the hostage taker, but glad that is at least resolved.
Oh. Going back to the first screen. Also, if you're on a computer, there is there's an electronic hand you can raise. It's under your reactions, and that might be easier for me to see if I'm not seeing you.
Hey,
Russ?
yeah, I have a joy that on Friday I met in the All Souls Sanctuary with Jennifer and Melvin, set up a ladder up to one of the stained glass windows over the chancel that needs repair. And for the first time, I went up there and I saw this thing really close up, and we had some craftspeople there to see it so we can get an estimate. But it was amazing to see it so close up. And then I went into the minister's study and found pictures, photographs that had been taken when the church opened in 1895. And I'm pretty sure those are the same windows. And there's a reverence that I feel when I recognize that history of not just the building, but all the people who've been in there before me. So that's my joy.
Okay. And as our custom, not seeing any more raised hands on screen 1 or 2. Do you have one?
I'd like to say something.
Okay, hold on. To change my sound.
John, if you could please light a candle of concern for my daughter, who's just dealing with so many hard things all at once. I know everybody has their battles, but it's just hard when life hits you in every direction, mentally, physically, emotionally, even on some level spiritually. She's just really hurting. And I'd also like you to light a candle of joy for the ways that throughout our decades and decades of friendship, we've been able to have so much creative collaboration. It's been a real sweetness in my life. And thanks again for what you shared this morning. Ditto, Dan, for your part in making all this happen, being so resourceful and adapting the way we have.
Thank you.
Dan,
Yes, Ron.
I'd like to light a candle of concern for my cousin in San Luis Obispo, California. He's developed some very serious brain problems and is somewhat comatose. Been through several major surgeries and is currently non-responsive. And the doctor says hopefully he'll get through this. So I am concerned. Thank you.
Well, it's getting, wait a minute here. It's getting a bit late. So if, with your permission, you have one more? Annette?
No, got to move on to the breakout room.
Okay, let's light one more candle for all those joys and concerns that we carry with us throughout the week, unspoken. And I will set up breakout rooms for each church. We'll
Thank
have
you.
breakout rooms. We'll actually have 3, and then this will be sort of the studio, and you can, and I will let participants choose the rooms, and I will name them for each congregation, and you can flip back and forth between rooms, just like you were walking to different corners of the hall. It's a little tricky, but it can be done. Here we go. So here we go. Let's see, All Souls. I'm doing it in alphabetical order. And rename. Room 2 will be Bernardston. Yes. And room 3 will be First Parish Northfield.
Go to something's here.
Yeah, wait for it. Wait for it.
And I'm going to stop the YouTubers. So anybody who's watching on YouTube, thank you very much for joining with us. And all of this service will be available on YouTube as a recording. So thank you. All rooms are opening. And the invitation is out.